And right now, one former Republican candidate for Georgia governor is now backing the latecomer who shook up the race at the last minute. Attorney General Carr is supporting Rick Jackson. Carr says, quote, Rick Jackson is an outsider businessman, a man of deep faith and integrity who will do what is right for the people of Georgia. Jackson is facing Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Jones, you may remember, was endorsed by President Trump heading into the primary election. Voters will head to the polls for the runoff on June 16th. The winner will face former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in November's general election.